Murphy starts malfunctioning. This is your look at the new Hiya Toys Robocop 2 Exquisite Mini Battle Damage Robocop. Exquisite Mini is a new standard setting series for 1/18 scale, featuring super articulation action figures from Hiya Toys. Before we tend to Robocop's wounds, the first thing we're going to do is calculate how tall the figure stands. I'd like to also send out a big thank you to the folks over at Hiya Toys who provided the sample of Robocop we're having a look at in this video. Stopping the tape measure at the very top of his head, right there, and reading the front display to you, the members of the viewing audience, you're looking at Robocop, specifically battle-damaged Robocop, standing 4.3 inches in height. And switching that quickly to centimeters, then you're looking at the figure standing 10.9, almost 11 centimeters tall. Moving over the battle-damaged Robocop and bringing in the regular release Robocop, just to show you the difference between the two, they are sharing what seems to be the exact same mold. And short of a few damaged points that Hiya Toys did to the torso and to the head, it doesn't look like much has changed from one to the other. We'll have some more comparisons of the Robocops in a second. Before we do that, though, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the battle damage version of Robocop. To come included is a display stand, one of which that we've seen before, though slightly different. You'll have to also excuse me, as I may have confused and switched these around. But unlike the Predator release stands, there is actually a notable difference between the two, the battle damaged Robocop and the regular release. Again, the flooring is completely different. The damage done to the tile work is also very different. I think this one was the one that came with the battle-damaged Robocop, and this was the one that came with the original release. They work still the same way. There's slots on the bottom, and what you do get is these little eye brackets. So you just fit them underneath. I mean, you could do them anywhere you want. Up at the top here, on the sides, on the bottom, anywhere you want. I generally go to the sides, but that's just my own personal preference. And then you just fit this over top of the other tiles. And just snap these into place like that. And then you got yourself kind of what seems almost like an unfinished, it doesn't continue the same pattern work over on this side. So maybe again you may want to use these maybe as we get more Robocop releases. I know we're already getting an Ed 209, but again my hope, I can only hope, that we are going to be getting ourselves the Kane Robocop. That is what I'd be most excited for. And maybe like the flooring would be a little bit more then consistent, where again, like maybe the tracks here would continue on to the next panel. So this one is a little bit different than perhaps the Predator releases that we've seen before, but connect the exact same way. Other things that come included with this Robocop is again Kane's brain times 2. A second time that we've gotten ourselves the brain of Kane. I think I just like saying that. Reaching off camera and grabbing the one that we had gotten before. I don't think these ones change too much from one to the other, so I don't feel like I'm necessarily, grabbing the wrong one, for example. You can see the dome, and inside is the squishy brain of Kane, of course. And this is what Robocop pulls from Robocop 2. In a way, though, if you had picked up both of these Robocops, ultimately you're still settling on two Kane brains. I would have said perhaps instead of getting two versions of the exact same accessory, this would have been an opportunity for them perhaps to be swapping out one of the brains and maybe in favor of a canister of Nuke, just as an idea. But you do get two brains of Kane. Don't worry, I'll stop saying that. So at least if you lose one, you've got another one readily available. Robocop comes also included with his Auto 9. And I made not the mistake this time around of confusing which one came with which Robocop, because the one that came with the original Robocop has actually a more shinier paint to it, whereas this one, they've tarnished it, sort of given it a worn look, so it's not as shiny as this one right here. That's a nice little small touch. That continues also when we have a look at the rest of Robocop, as there are some areas on him that are slightly more matte in paint scheme. The Auto 9 is a nice touch. Like with the other Robocop, though, it doesn't actually fit holstered into his leg. You just display it in his hand. And obviously, to display it in his hand, you're going to need yourself some hands. Robocop comes with 2. Now again, looking at these, one hand is actually designed for holding Kane's brain. Let me just see if I can actually grab it here. There's a little section here, sort of just fits down inside. I didn't show you this with the other Robocop, but as you can just see, it holds in his hand. You can either have it held there, or you can actually have it held in here. And he just can be displayed like that, just before he's ready to smash it to the ground. The other hand, on the other hand, is actually the hand that's designed for holding the Auto 9. The Auto 9 fits very carefully, easily into the hand, and luckily the fingers are soft enough in plastic that the Auto 9 fits quite comfortably inside of that, right down to the fact you can actually get the trigger finger sitting on the trigger. And like with the Auto 9, the hands themselves also are slightly more matte color. A trend, again, you'll see in a second when we have a look at the rest of Robocop here. Just before we have a look at Robocop, I just want to show you what I was talking about, how the hands do differ from one another. The more matte-colored black is the one that comes included with the battle-damaged Robocop. The more shinier semi-gloss black actually came included with the original Robocop that we had a look at. So there is a difference and a good telltale sign to know which one comes with the battle-damaged version and which one comes included with the regular released Robocop. That being said, let's have a look at the figure itself. And of course, what you would expect to find with a battle-damaged Robocop is some substantial damage. And he does have that. Not a lot of it, just enough. He's got, of course, the cut-in, the soldering tool that they use to cut down into the helmet itself. You can see there's areas where it's been burned around those edges. The nice thing about it, though, is there's actually like an actual carved area to the mold. They simply just didn't paint that in place. It seems like there's a little small area that perhaps could have shown Murphy's eye, although it's so small and there's no detail in sculpting underneath all of that. But you got to believe deep inside that hole there would have been an eye peering back. Of course, the other damage that's occurred on Robocop is the area here on the front, very badly damaged to the point where you can actually see his internal workings. And that's been just ruptured around that, with areas of the metal and shards just sort of peeled back. Nice little bullet holes also that they put to the surface. It pretty much represents the only damage that's on this particular Robocop. Again, if we just bring in the one that we had looked at before, here is the regular release. Not too much has changed. I could say that perhaps this would have been the opportunity that Hiya could have incorporated more of an anguished face sculpt, instead of just giving us the neutral head sculpt that this one already had. But again, like there's enough damage to be said for this one that it does look like it's a different figure altogether. The paint scheme also seems a little bit different also. This one has the brushing and the airbrushing of, for example, the purple and the blues and the greens and stuff like that. This one doesn't seem to have as much of it, sort of resulting in more of a silver-looking Robocop. You sort of see more of the difference when I spin the figures around. Like there's a lot more pinks and purples on the original release. Not as much here on the battle-damaged version. Another thing I wanted to talk about, though, is the damaged areas of Robocop where he doesn't have as much sheen. You'll see there's a gloss coat that they've actually added to the torso area here that he doesn't actually have on this side. When I did have a look at the 6-scale release produced by Hot Toys of Robocop, I wondered why there was an area that seemed unfinished on paint. And yet now this is the second company that's done the exact same thing. Makes me think I should go back and just double check the movie, as there clearly looks like there's areas on Robocop that seem more scuffed up as he gets to the end of the film, where it's much more shinier and pristine on this side. It's much more rough and matte on this one. The hands are also a little bit more matte color, as well as the forearmed areas. So yes, there are some changes to be had from one to the other. The rest of the details on the figure, short of the damaged marks, are, like I said, pretty much carbon copy from one to the other. The head sculpt is still solid. There's still that little area where I feel like I'm looking at the nostrils of Robocop. I feel like that nose should have been a little higher up, but overall the head sculpt is pretty solid on this. And it really, again, points should be awarded to Hiya for actually carving that in, instead of simply just painting that in place. The detail on this guy is quite good overall. The idea, again, of being able to get a superposable version of Robocop, where you can actually rotate his limbs all the way around, and he's in a 1/18 scale, seems unheard of, and now we're actually getting it from Hiya Toys. For the detailing again on the back, he still has the pistons. Not much has changed from the original release. So basically all the stuff that I'm saying about this version of Robocop is pretty much just carbon copied from the one that we looked at before. Looking at the posability of battle-damaged Robocop, his head moves all the way around. It hinges down, it hinges up, and it rocks also back and forth. I did notice that perhaps there may have been an issue where the paint had gotten flaked, and as I rotated the head, I noticed that there's a little bit of the black that has come off, resulting in the silver being sort of left behind. I guess it adds a little bit to this Robocop, giving him that battle-damaged look, but it's something I did want to notice and mention to you guys, that little bit of paint that flaked off. The arms do rotate all the way around. They're simply just on ball hinge joints. The arms also hinge outward, but you can't do too much more than this, just because of the way the shoulder is sculpted. The elbows do bend. You can bend those back and forth as well. While he doesn't have forearm articulation, you can most definitely rotate the hand all the way around on the peg joint that the hand is pegged into. Then, of course, you have the upper torso ball joint. You have a secondary ball joint just right here. And it really does a great job, though, where you can really crunch the figure forward and arch the figure back. And you've got that little middle section that's sort of connecting the two ends together. Very nicely done with the way they've done that. Then for the legs split out only to about there. You can move the legs forward, you can move the legs back. There's a little bit of a rocking point, essentially, where it's just been pegged into that thigh joint. He does have a single hinge on the knee, a little limited on that end of things, but then he does also have an articulation in his feet. They rock a little bit back and forth, not by much though, but you can at least hinge them back and forth this way, as well as you can also see the way that the piston is actually working on the back of the figure's calves. A very nicely detailed figure, small, yes, in size, but the fact that this one does have the battle damage certainly goes a long way if you already, of course, have this Robocop in your collection. While I feel I still may move to this one as being my favorite, the idea that Hiya Toys would still give us essentially a re-release variant to this guy with a battle damage treatment is certainly a nice touch. Now, of course, I'm anxious to see what they're going to be doing with the Ed 209, and again, the fingers are crossed constantly on my part that we will finally see ourselves a Kane Robocop. The idea that we are getting ourselves Robocop 2, specifically Robocops, and not necessarily Robocop 1, makes me think that Hiya Toys are working behind the scenes to produce a Kane Robocop, and that has me very excited. This is your brain on drugs. This is your brain smashed on the concrete. Any questions? I have one question, actually. When can Hiya Toys produce more Robocop releases? Of course, we've been spoiled all this time by getting Predators, Aliens, and Injustice 2, but now that we're starting to be teased by the idea of Robocop releases, count me in. The idea that we've already got ourselves a Robocop, we've already got ourselves a battle-damaged Robocop, both of which we've looked at on this channel, and we're teased by images online of an Ed 209, which I'm really excited for getting a 1/18th scale Ed 209. The idea again, and I want to just say this, the fact that the packaging is touted as being Robocop 2, I don't think stems from a licensing thing. I think it more stems from the idea that they want to be releasing a Robocop 2 Kane. That's my hope, at least. The idea of getting a Robocop 2 Kane in a 1/18th scale that can go along with our 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes or any other figures that we're collecting in that scale has me extremely excited. I can't believe, again, this is the reasoning they just happen to pick Robocop 2 of the two movies. You never know, it could be a licensing thing, but I think it has more to do with the fact that Hiya Toys have planned a Kane Robocop 2, and I'm very excited for that. As for Battle Damage Robocop, I don't want to get too ahead of myself with wishful thinking. Battle Damage Robocop is a nice release, again from Hiya Toys, even though we're technically getting pretty much the same Robocop with a few little carvings in his helmet and battle damage to his torso. The accessories are the same, so he still gets the Auto 9, he still gets the display base slightly different, and he gets the interchangeable hands, but he also does get the Kane brain. Promise, that's going to be the last time I say that. Maybe one more time. Instead of getting just the Kane brain, maybe this could have been the opportunity to come included with a little canister of Nuke. Something, again, as a precursor for what we're going to be getting. Wishful thinking, wishful thinking, wishful thinking. A Robocop 2 Kane. There, I've said it. That's all I'm going to talk about it. A nice looking figure release, certainly from Hiya Toys. A big fan of these Exquisite minis. And now the fact that we're also expanding our horizon just outside the realm of doing just Predators and Aliens, but now we're also getting movie tie-in characters like Robocop. So excited. Big thank you again to the folks over at Hiya Toys who provided the sample of both damaged Robocop that we looked at in this review and the previously looked at regular Robocop. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of these figures. Also, if you're new to the channel and you're liking the content that you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below. Consider turning the bell notification on so you're getting those nice friendly reminders. And keep in mind, as a friendly reminder, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when new videos pop up onto this channel. And more time than not, we always tend to do premieres. So if you want to come on board, come on by. All the sandwiches and everything will be provided there at the party. And feel free to hang out with a whole bunch of cool guys. Cool guys, gals, owls, and other things. So stay tuned, guys. There's certainly going to be a lot more coming your way, so keep your peepers peeled for future videos. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.